be getting busy working on my next track. So don't get mad if you try to text Jack.
Over the past couple years, very few musicians have made the type of impact that Jack Harlow has. This Kentucky native, known for his inoffensive style and easygoing bars, landed a spot on the Billboard Hot 100 while being little more than internet famous at the time. Over the past couple years, there have been plenty of young people who have accomplished their 15 minutes of fame thanks to social media, only to then fall off the charts. But that's most definitely not the case with Jack. His raw talent and ever-increasing acclaim would lead to a record deal with Atlantic Records and the subsequent release of projects like That's What They All Say, as well as his most recent album, Come Home, The Kids Miss You. And sure, acceptance might seem like it comes easy to Jack, but in point of fact, he had to overcome a lot of bullying thanks to an eye condition that he suffered from as a kid. Know how this led to Jack expressing himself musically for one of the first times in his life? Then fill us in down below. Everybody else, stay tuned to find out that and a whole bunch more on our newest episode of Before They Were Famous.
Jack, to be precise.
Jack Harlow was born March 13, 1998 in the city of Shelbyville, Kentucky. That's where he grew up on a horse farm where his parents, Maggie and Brian, both of whom ran a successful business known as Signorama.
In 2009, my husband Brian and I decided we were going to invite the CEO of Signorama franchise to come to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby.
When he was no older than a child, his parents moved from Shelbyville to Louisville, settling in an area of town known as the Highlands, a neighborhood that Jack remembers as being safe, accepting, and diverse. Usually don't hear those three things in a sentence, but hey, glad he had a good upbringing.
Louisville, it's like an island in the sea of something totally different.
At this still early stage of life, Jack's only real hardship was the fact that he was born with a lazy eye. As a kid, Jack spent a ton of time with an eye patch covering his right eye to challenge his weaker left eye into growing stronger. You never know where people come from, kids. And if you're thinking there's no way that could have been easy for a kid to deal with, well, you're right. Kids at school would definitely make fun of him for it, but here's the thing, Jack is so damn likable that even back then he was turning his enemies into friends.
Brian and I were still getting dressed, so he found my son Jack, who at the time was 10, and he said, "Jack, where's your mom's iron?" And he said, "She doesn't have one." And the CEO was a little taken aback, and he said, "Well then, what does she do?" And my son said, "She works at Signorama."
How did he do it? Pretty simple. Whenever other kids would start picking on his eye and calling him nerdy, Jack would then break out into his own rendition of Weird Al Yankovic's White and Nerdy. As soon as he'd do that, the taunts would turn into cheers. Kind of like a B-Rabbit thing of turning your weaknesses into strengths. He learned from the right rappers. Unfortunately, Jack's eye never grew as strong as it should, and he would have to switch to corrective lenses later on in life to address these issues. His passion for music, on the other hand, would only continue to grow more and more. At the age of just 12, Jack began making music for the first time. That's right around the time in his life when his parents brought him home the video game Guitar Hero. Rather than play with it like any other normal kid would, Jack plugged the game's microphone into his laptop and ran a program known as Audacity to begin recording his earliest tracks. Then, alongside a buddy from school named Copeland, Jack recorded his very first CD titled Rippin' and Rappin', which he and his partner then took to selling a few dozen copies of at Highland Middle School. Now that he had discovered his passion, Jack turned to his mother and asked how he could become the best rapper in the entire world. Having just read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, Maggie told Jack that he would have to invest over 10,000 hours of practice into his craft if he really wanted to be serious about it. Imagine telling a 12-year-old kid that. Crazy, right? Well, it was so crazy that it just so happened to work. Later that year, Jack got his hands on a professional-grade microphone and began putting in endless hours, producing what would become his very first mixtape, a project known as Extra Credit under the moniker of Mr. Harlow. A SoundCloud account was next to follow, and that's where he was making something of a name for himself, and he joined up with a couple like-minded friends at school to form his own rap collective known as Private Garden. This local success would lead to meetings with management companies and record labels when he was still attending Alderton High School. but nothing would come to fruition, at least not yet. Then, during his senior year, Jack released his very first EP titled The Handsome Harlow. Soon afterwards, as his friends began packing up their bags to go to college, Jack began working at his parents' sign business during the day while dedicating his nights to making music. After about a year of that, he dropped his fully fleshed out mixtape titled 18, containing the breakout song, Ice Cream. Having earned nearly 1 million plays for that track on Spotify alone, Jack got more serious than ever about joining the music industry. That's when he decided to leave his hometown of Louisville behind and head for Atlanta, Georgia. Hell-bent on elevating his career, Jack moved to the rap mecca of the world, Atlanta, Georgia. And sure, he may have been the white boy looking to make it in the world of hip-hop, but the color of his skin was not something he was looking to highlight or take advantage of in music. He told the New York Times, "I'm not preoccupied with my whiteness. I'm aware of it, but it's not something I'm battling against or lifting up. I just let it be." Once in Atlanta, Jack recorded and released a new mixtape titled Gazebo, which was buoyed by its high-energy single Dark Night, a track whose music video would premiere on Worldstar Hip Hop's YouTube page and earn well over 1 million views. He then had the good fortune to meet with fellow Kentucky native Kai Engineering, with whom he quickly struck up a working relationship. Kai brought Jack out to meet DJ Drama, who immediately fell in love with Harlow and signed him to his Atlantic Records subsidiary, Generation Now. Good move by DJ Drama too.
It was like, yo, you know, we're starting a label, you know, we're definitely looking for artists out there. And KY was like, I think I got something for you, you know, just give me a second.
Okay.
And when it all came together, and the same person that KY had been telling Lake about was the same person that my man Randy was putting me on to, being Jack Harlow.
Now with the backing of a major label, Loose became Harlow's next mixtape, followed about a year later by another tape called Confetti. But 2020 would become the biggest year of Jack's career. That's when he landed on the #2 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 with his hit single, What's Poppin', a catchy number that went viral thanks to, you guessed it, TikTok.
But in my opinion, it hasn't been ruined. TikTok took it up a notch. I'm definitely grateful for all them kids doing little videos to it. I don't even know if there's a dance. They just kind of bite their lips and list all their most attractive traits and then say what's poppin'.
In the wake of that success, Jack Harlow got caught up in a whirlwind of opportunities. Over the past couple of years, he's not only starred in a Tommy Hilfiger campaign and a KFC commercial, he's also been cast in the upcoming remake of White Man Can't Jump and has been featured on a remix of Eminem's track Killer. Oh, and I mean, he's already been nominated for 3 Grammys. And did I mention that the dude is barely 24 years old? Pretty impressive stuff. Most recently, Jack has dropped his sophomore album, Come Home, The Kids Miss You, which found him embracing a more banger-heavy approach with guest spots from Pharrell, Justin Timberlake, Lil Wayne, and of course Drake.
What are you gonna cut to?
It's Drake and Jack Harlow, y'all. We had to.
What are you gonna cut to? Like a shot of like poorly manicured grass or something.
You know what I'm gonna tell him? I'm gonna tell him, just hold on, we're going home. Okay. All right? Drake and Jack Harlow. Churchill Downs. That's it.
But as for the rest of Jack's story, well, you already know the answer. After all, this is before they're famous. Please remember to like and subscribe before you head out, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications to ensure that you are notified whenever we drop some new content. My name is Clyde Smith, and I'll see you guys in another episode.